Morning. Welcome to today's video. I'm meeting up with Bike Fit James.
Good morning.
You went up some mountains?
Went up some mountains. A mountain. Madone. The namesake of the of
named
the
after the trek. Yeah.
It was hot.
Bike fitter's headset has come loose. You're supposed to be good at tightening bolts.
Travelling
Isn't
with
that
bikes.
90% of your job?
Nah, I'm good at tightening knees. Right, I'm done. Should we get your legs working again?
I thought we'd stop for like a nice 5 minutes, not 30 seconds.
No, 30 seconds, mate.
I'm wrecked.
It's alright.
Yeah, it's fine, it turns.
We're toying with the idea of doing a regular segment in these videos called, what's it called?
Bike Fit Tuesdays?
We were going to call it Bike Fit Mondays, but then we realised the video would be going up on a Tuesday. So, Bike Fit Tuesdays. Bike Fit Tuesdays.
It's your race number. It's kind of sad they don't sell green snot here.
With, what was it?
Or pink and cold.
What testicles was it? Squirrel testicles or something like that. No.
Unless there might be one at the bottom of there. Keep stirring, you might find it.
Nah, it's just caffeinated black gloop. It's goodness.
You should really never sell anything. Don't go into advertising. Caffeinated black gloop.
Yeah.
Free with every bike fit from JT Bike Fit. What I would like to know are the most common pitfalls of a bike racer's fit. What are the most common mistakes that people make? Even successful racers.
Too long, too low, saddle too high. There's this trend in racing. I mean, you go somewhere like Hillingdon, for example. Every single bike's got an Arione saddle on it. Every single bike's got 130mm stem on it, with no spaces. And there's this trend towards, particularly the stem thing. Towards making a bike look a certain way without any care or consideration for the rider. I mean, you got scores of 130mm stems being ridden by people of a vast array of height, weight, strength, flexibility.
It can't be one size fits all.
It just doesn't work like that. I get that there is high-speed stability to be gained from having longer stems on it, but you know what? There are other ways of improving stability of a bicycle. It's the same with the front end. I mean, a lot of the time I find myself with some races, not all, but some races racing the front end, and actually that allows them to adopt a slightly lower torso angle, which some might say is more aerodynamic. But yeah, I guess we seem to do things, or a lot of people seem to do things because it's traditional rather than because it's necessarily right. The saddle height thing is another one, and actually it's something that stems from an era, and I'm talking kind of late 80s, early 90s now, of where bike positioning became really very, very extreme. You ended up with very, very high saddle heights and very high handlebar drops. And it seems to be an image that's kind of stuck, and you just don't see it anymore. You see the amount of extension that's going on in the pro peloton in this day. It's generally a little bit more conservative. Not that aspiring to a pro position should be done by
everyone,
consumers in the first place, because the pros are freaks. No offence. They're riding thousands and thousands of Ks a week, and
they can absorb a lot of.
Absolutely, totally. They're stronger than we are. They're generally more flexible. They have access to all
loads
kinds
more
of
drugs.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to condone that statement in any way, shape, or form. But they have access to things like professional sports massage therapy. They're physiotherapists on hand, osteopaths. They've got a huge amount of medical care surrounding them, whereas consumers don't. Well, equally, most people that ride bikes these days race 35 to 60 and sit at a desk all day, so they can't absorb the positions in the same way that someone that's riding thousands of Ks can. So yeah, I think the main pitfalls, as it were, of not just racers but road cyclists in general, is that too long, too low, and too high.
You gonna go and do 50 miles now?
Yeah, might go ride my bike a little bit more. I might just go home and do laundry.
That was the first easy spin I've had in quite a while. It wasn't very easy.
Oh, thanks.
Right, I'm just on the train. I'm heading to Moreton in Marsh because today isn't just Bike Fit Mondays or Tuesdays. Today is New Wheel Day. I'm going to spin on these HQ. We're going to lace up some new carbon wheels. It's a pretty long journey. I'll see you when I get there. Hello.
Hello, Francis. Welcome.
Lovely to meet you. This is Mega.
It's one of several working sheds that I work out of, basically.
Yeah.
But this is where I make all the wheels, basically. All the wheel builds I do here, as well as other stuff as well.
So what do? You do carbon wheels.
Yep.
Titanium bikes.
Yep.
Anything else?
That I try to keep it at that. I've done lots of other stuff in the past, but I'm really trying now to just focus on wheels. And really, I have no choice because the wheels are pretty popular now. So I can be sometimes 7 out of 7 days making wheels.
Yeah.
And very unpopular with my family.
This needs to go on camera straight away. Tom Stockdale.
Tom Stockdale, yeah. He did that to my bike. Don't ride it because it's repairing. But anyway, he went out, tour series, I think it was Colchester round, and he had a big crash. Head on into the barriers, and that's what he did. That's the fork he rode. Theoretically that should have snapped off. All Tom's power and weight, tried to rip the head tube off the frame, and it did that to the down tube. This is a tube that has no strength here. It's all about transmitting the force from here to here. It's not designed to have a wheel rammed into it. But if you think it looks soft, I challenge you, Francis, to bend that back into shape. Because you can't, because that takes a massive amount of force to do that. You're going to make your own wheels that you're going to ride to Paris, Francis.
Oh my goodness, right. I don't know if I trust myself.
I'll check them at the end to make sure it's not going to be a complete disaster. I just wanted to show you the difference between, the really famous spoke. This. Can you see that? It's very thin in that direction and fatter in that direction.
Yeah, slightly bladed.
It's very bladed, okay? And that's a Sapim C-X-Ray. There are other brands available, of course. C-X-Rays are great because they're really, really strong in tension. When they're being pulled apart, they're incredibly strong, and they're very light for the amount of strength they've got. But one of the drawbacks of CX-Ray is in this direction here, which a wheel doesn't do a lot of, but it does some of. It's very flexy. And the spoke that I've chosen for you, Francis, because you're a really powerful
I'm a monstrous sprinter.
ex-pro rider, I've chosen this spoke, which looks boring. It's just round and plain. And I make that here on this machine here. But this is really stiff in all directions. It's very hard work even to make the wheels with this spoke. It's heavier than the CX-Ray.
You make the spoke?
Yeah, what I do is I buy the spoke in a blank, okay, and then I cut it to length and size and thread
a thread on the end. Wow.
Yeah, here on this, on fill. This is fill, meat fill.
There's loads of baby spokes on the floor.
I was going to say to you, if you notice that
The graveyard.
when it gets towards the end of the week, it's very dangerous in here because I only tidy up once a week, and you literally can walk in sometimes and forget and get all the spokes lined up, and it's like Flintstones, So that goes in there, okay, and then you just do that. That's cut it to length, and now you just roll the thread, and
it's done.
That's done. So it's a little bit hot when you do that because it literally forged the thread into the metal. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, we can see.
And if you want to check that it works, I always have a little nipple handy here. I don't check every one, but sometimes, in a batch of spokes, it's good to check every few, and it works very well. So Francis right now is bringing each spoke up to somewhere close to the final tension. So at this stage, we're not bothered about whether the wheel is true or anything like that. We're literally just tightening up these spokes. And if we calculated the spoke lengths correctly, they should start getting tight by the time he's finished this revolution. That's now showing that this is in the center, but we don't know if the wheel is centered yet. But what we can do now is we can measure the axle and see how eccentric this axle is. So I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to rotate this axle while trying to keep the rim in place. just to see how much movement you get just by positioning your wheel in your bike in different ways. So you can see that this axle is eccentric by 0.2 of a millimeter. And then while it's in the stand, basically, but without the gauges engaged, okay, without the clocks working, is grab hold of pairs of spokes and absolutely squeeze the daylights out of them. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to rip the spoke out of the hub and out of the rim. Okay, every single pair, I'm doing this. This is my workout basically for my fingers. This is why I'm a shit guitarist now, because I've knackered my fingers doing this. We're bedding the spoke into the hub hole. We're pulling it really tight, and we're doing the same here as well. So what we'll have done now is we'll have lost a lot of tension in the spokes already, but then I'm going to wind that back up and replace that. So if we didn't do that process, the first time you rode these wheels, you do that naturally by riding them.
And then they'd be all over the place.
And then they'd be shit wheels. And that's what a lot of factory wheels are. They don't have any stress relief stages in the wheels, which is why they come undone.
Really easy.
Yeah, truer. No, you can see it's gone. So where the spokes were really had a lot of stress built into them, you can see it's much more noticeable now. We're going to use these gauges and the sound of the spokes to know what we need to do. So you see these are all dead sounding. This one sounds like it's got some tension in it. This one sounds like it hasn't got very much. So we're going to tighten that spoke and then give it a twang. What are you doing now, Francis?
The last few turns,
Okay.
getting the tension just right.
Only a little bit of help. You've got it to within about 0.3 of a millimeter total lateral tolerance, and you've got it within about 0.25 of 1 millimeter. That's a quarter of 1 millimeter, not 2.5 millimeters, a quarter of 1 millimeter.
What's the deal with tyre width? And have people been lying to us this whole time?
So when I first started making really wide wheels about 6 years ago already now, the idea was to make the rim width optimal for the tyre that everyone was riding on the road. And back then we all rode 23mm tyres. Every roadie rode 23mm tyres. And this is what a 23mm tyre looks like. So this is a Continental tyre of a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. You can see that there's not much difference between the tyre and the rim. But if we look at a tyre that is sold
As
today,
a 23.
this is a current generation 23. This happens to be my favourite tyre, and when I say that, I mean it's the best tyre I've ever ridden in my whole life. And you know, I've been riding for 40 years. As you see, it sits perfectly on this modern rim. This is a DM8 rim. This is the same as the wheel you just made for yourself, Francis. But let's have a look. This is a 23.
Direct comparison.
And this is a 23. Is that picking up okay?
Yeah, you can see a huge difference.
But that tyre width isn't as good as that tyre width for all kinds of reasons. And that's why you need a wider rim to make the most out of today's tyres.
And manufacturers are lying.
Essentially, this actually measures 25mm at its widest, which is down here somewhere. Instead of being a bulging sidewall, it sits very nicely on the rim. Riding that is sublime, you know, really low pressure, masses and masses of grip, which is great in the wet as well as the dry. Really reassuring to ride, but no loss of speed. You know, normally you would expect, with a low pressure, you would expect to go slower, but you don't. I haven't yet found the lowest pressure you can ride these where you start feeling like you're going slower.
But you're working on it.
I don't dare go any lower than I ride it.
What is your opinion on rim depth? Is there a correct rim depth for a rider's weight?
Probably. There probably is. There's a range of rim depths which I point my customers towards. Essentially, the faster you want to ride, the deeper the wheel you should go for. And it doesn't matter about the weight, because actually in the range of wheels that I make today, which are these DM8s, they start out, the lightest ones are 38 deep, which is a little bit shallower than this one. This one here is the medium, 45 deep, but this is the fastest. And it also is the heaviest wheel. So the shallowest, the 38, is the lightest and attracts a lot of people because they're convinced that saving 10 or 15 grams is the key difference. And this is the heaviest wheel set, but it's the fastest and it's the most fun to ride. And I think that's a lot of people forget. that riding your bike should be as much fun as you can cram into the hours you're allowed out on your
Not how
bike.
much weight you can save.
The thing is that the weight saving on a pair of wheels is dwarfed by the aero gains. Okay, so if everything is equal, so these rims are the same width, so they have the same benefits for low rolling resistance, for grip, for comfort, low pressure, all that. The difference between that wheel set and that wheel set is the aero performance gains. But also, I think, because a lot of my customers are big guys like me and even bigger, and these people seem to be really attracted to the very lightest wheels. And
You can sort of see the logic there.
yes, you can, but saving a few tens of grams in your wheels, if you weigh 120 kilos, trust me, you're not going to feel that. What you are going to feel though, and especially long term, is the strength and robust and durability of your wheels. And essentially, if you think of a wheel as a disc with a big hole, a big gap here, here's the axle and here's the tyre. This is the important bit, the tyre. And the more of this gap you can fill in with a really strong, stiff material like carbon fibre here, the stronger and stiffer and more robust the wheel is overall. So for heavier riders, not only can they handle the aerodynamics and the conditions, for example, in windy conditions, if you're really light, if you're 40 kilos, you might get blown about a little bit on these. They won't take you off the road, but you might feel the wind. But if you're 100 kilos or 90 kilos or 80 kilos, you're not going to have any issues with a rim this deep.
So make the most of that situation
So
and
take
ride
advantage.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. The more rim, the stiffer the wheel, and the faster. That's the bonus. This is
It's
the
pretty
deepest. This is the deepest rim I make. It's 90 mil deep, and again, it's stiffer than this wheel. So again, that's a great combination. That in the rear and that on the front is a really fast TT or Criterion wheel set. A lot of riders again are really frightened of it because that's quite a heavy wheel, but the speed is a whole different matter.
Yeah.
And here's a good illustration of that. So I had a rider in the World Championships last year in Doha, and he's a small, skinny young guy. He rides for the Dutch national team. His name is Ide Schelling. And I'd said I'd make you a special pair of wheels for the World Championships because you got selected for it. And he chose that rear and this front together. In fact, this is the wheel. In fact, that is exactly the pair of wheels he rode to 7th place in the World Road Race Championships. And that was the only pair of wheels I made for that championship. So they didn't do too badly. But he chose that, and he's a really small, light kid. And I said to him, why did you choose that wheel? I would have gone 58 front and rear. And he goes, because this is just faster.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Francis. It's been a pleasure meeting you. And I've enjoyed watching all your movies up to now. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with your wheels. Good luck getting to Paris.
Thank you.